You know what, Sam?
What?
The deadline is almost upon us.
Yes, it is. Man, uh, Friday is the trade deadline. Can you believe it, Sam? We might have all of our answers or questions answered, basically.
Mm.
We we might never know. Questions surrounding this Canes team, Sam, involving Miko Rantanen. Of course, we will get to that though. But since we have a lot of home games coming up, though, Sam, you know what our listeners should use?
SeatGeek. So if you use our SeatGeek promotional code, which is Caniac Report, you'll get $20 off your first purchase. So if you want to go to one of these upcoming home games, we've got a lot on the docket. You can use it there. You want to go see a concert, you want to go see a comedy show, whatever SeatGeek offers. If you see something on there you want to go to, promo code Caniac Report, get you $20 off your first purchase. Like I say every episode, why leave free money on the table?
Exactly, it's a great deal. Again, you just get $20 off. So
Yep.
please use that if you feel like going to uh, get a good deal on tickets for anywhere, basically. So another thing too is we have a link for donations. So if you feel like you want to donate to us, there is a link to that for on both on YouTube if you're watching us and on the traditional podcast side of things. And remember to hit like and subscribe if you're watching us. Hit that notification bell so you never miss another episode. And if you are listening to us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast, be sure to leave a rating and a review. And another thing, too, is we have a giveaway coming up here.
Yep.
It's going to be next week. It's a Tuesday night, 7:30 against the Tampa Bay Lightning. And Sam,
Yep.
what are the instructions for that giveaway?
The instructions are, again, you always have the one option to get yourself an additional entry. It's a one-time use only, so choose wisely when you do it. If you leave a review, 4 stars or higher, because I'm not going to enter you in if you give us some crappy star. That's ridiculous. We're giving you a ticket. You can be nice. You go give us a 4 or 5-star review on any of the platforms, or a really nice commented review, or a liked plus a commented review underneath an episode on YouTube. Doesn't matter. Give us a review, 4 or 5 stars, or a thumbs up on YouTube for one of the videos, and
Send us a screenshot of it.
Yes, send us a screenshot. Well, not the YouTube one, because you can do that over and over again. So a review on either Apple or Spotify, Google, whatever we have our thing on. Send us the proof of the review. You can only do it once. That gets you an automatic one, like an extra entry. I give that every time. That'll always be it, and I'll go over it each time we do a giveaway. Now, the main way that everybody can enter it is trade deadline time, Sam. So over the last you know what? We're going to extend this out. And the entire history of Carolina being a franchise, so 1997 to present, send us your favorite trade deadline acquisition Carolina has made from 1997 to now.
Basically, the entire existence of the Carolina Hurricanes.
Yes.
You can send us your favorite trade. So,
yep. And if you want to wait until after this deadline, because maybe this deadline gets you the player that you think is your favorite, that's fine. Again, game is on Tuesday, Sam. This coming Tuesday, correct?
It's a week from. So it's on the 11th, not this week,
not
but
this
the next
Tuesday.
week.
A week from this Tuesday, correct?
Yes.
So it is a week from this Tuesday. So we will choose the winner on Monday. So you have until then to tell us who your favorite trade deadline acquisition is. The deadline's on Friday. So if you want to wait till Friday to see what haul Carolina does or does not do on this deadline, that's fine. Again, it comes with, so everyone knows, those who have entered in knows before, comes with 2 tickets and a parking pass. So we cover your entire way to the game. Again, 2 tickets, parking pass gets you into the arena for free, parking included. So again, send us your favorite trade deadline acquisition of all time.
You can DM us. You can email us. Our email is in the description.
Yep.
So I leave that in there. So there are multiple ways to communicate with us.
if you want to get yourself a third entry, up your chances, because how I do this is I go in and I put the names down multiple times, then I hit a generator, so it gives you more chances to be selected. What this third one is not only do you list the name, tell us why. Okay? So if you tell us why, and everyone who tells us why, we'll also talk about why they liked it in the podcast. So you'll get name dropped in one of our episodes as well. So it gives us something to talk about because it's a trade deadline, and it's going to be. I'm kind of interested to see, and then Sam and I can give our thoughts on the acquisitions and question that everyone apparently loved, and that was their favorite.
Yeah, definitely. I can't remember. Do you have trade deadline day off or no? Because I know I do.
Mm-mm.
No, you don't. Okay.
But
I was proposing something, but if you didn't have that day off, I was thinking maybe doing instead of an episode a live stream that day. But we'll just do a normal episode like.
Oh, well, I could. We'll see. I can check.
But we'll probably just do a normal episode for that day, like usual. So,
but we'll see. We'll see. Assume a normal episode, but maybe I'll take it off. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. And again, this is where if you have social media, please follow us because Sam will be covering the X Twitter side of things on trade deadline day. I mean, I have that day off, so I'll obviously be helping him a little bit on that, but I will be covering the Instagram side of things and probably Blue Sky as well. So
now I'll do my best to cover Twitter that day. If I am at work, I usually take lunch right around the deadline. So we'll see. Fridays are busy, so if I'm not off, it might be delayed, but I will share the information as it pops up.
Yeah, because trade deadline, boy, it's gonna be something, or it could be nothing. Just really never know. But Sam, seemed like yesterday, Saturday, was a day that felt like trade deadline-ish because 3 trades happened that day, Sam. The first trade involved Colorado and the New York Rangers. Colorado got Ryan Lindgren, Hank Kempf, Jimmy Vesey, and the Rangers got Juuso Parssinen, Calvin DeHaans, former Hurricane, a 2nd-round pick, and a 4th-round pick. Sam, to me, I think the Rangers kind of looked at that injury that Fox had, and they're like, probably not going to make it to the playoffs, which is why they probably got just a couple of picks and prospects.
Yeah, I wonder if that's waving, like our buddy over at Keniac Sessions said, wonders if it's a wave of the white flag for the Rangers and they know the season's not it. Darn shame because they don't have their 1st-round draft pick. Well, I think it's top 10 protected, but
top 13 protected.
Top 13 protected. So they're safe in that regard. So if it ends up in the top 13, then they'll be fine. What'll be funny is if it's like a 14th.
Well, last time I looked at the standings, they were outside, right? They were in 14th position outside the playoffs.
Again, that can change though.
It could. It really could.
Because they could get bumped up to the 3rd, I think, is as high as they can go there.
Yep.
But I mean, we'll see what happens for the Rangers. I hope they miss, but I think this division's tightening up, and I don't think if you're not Washington, I don't think it's a lock you make the playoffs. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. And Sam, Colorado, they're being pretty aggressive here on the trade front, obviously with the Mikko Rantanen trade, and then they get Ryan Lindgren, who he's fallen off a little bit from his previous years, but I still think he's a good defenseman. So,
well, he's also a younger guy, I think, right?
He is a younger guy.
So you can always you can always figure your game out and find it, right? So it's not like age is a problem here. Some guys just need a change of scenery.
Exactly. The next trade, Sam, is a trade that was you can tell it's a pure rental because Minnesota got Gustav Nyquist.
Yep.
And the Nashville Predators acquired a 2nd-round pick. So you
does Gustav Nyquist not have term?
No, he's on his last year. 35 years old.
For some reason I thought he had term. But he's played in Minnesota before, so that's not a move that's going to bring a guy in who doesn't know the system or the team or the players. So I think that's actually a really good move from Minnesota. It gives them some depth and a pretty solid player in return.
Yes, and apparently Minnesota hasn't been playing that well as of recently, so maybe that type of trade can kind of help spark them back to being that very good team that we know they can be. And for Nashville, Sam, this is a team that really everybody had high hopes of, and they fell off a cliff, and
they did
now they're
fall off a
getting
cliff.
picks.
They did, but they're not really, they're not selling anybody that's part of their core. Right? Because they still believe this team is good, and they know that next year, because once they figure it out, they're a good team, right? Their blue line is very good, their offense is very good. When you bring in and that many new players, it doesn't matter the talent level. It's sometimes really hard to gel and figure it out. So if they have one season of growing pains, that's a really good team to get a really high draft pick. So like they got the goalie, they got the forwards, they got the defense, and now they're going to get a really good young prospect in the draft. So, it's not as deep of a draft, but it doesn't matter if you get drafted in the first round of any NHL draft, you're a solid player. And Nashville's going to have a high pick, probably I'm guessing top 5, top 10. That's probably where they're sitting right now, somewhere between those two numbers. And Jeff Skinner was a top 10. So it doesn't really matter, right? You can get a really good player in the top 10. So Nashville's, if you're a Nashville fan, yeah, it was a tough year. It has been a tough year. It is going to continue to be a tough year because you're not where you want to be. But guess what? You have a lot of good pieces. This is not going to be the norm for that group. The norm will be leading the division, Stanley Cup contenders. Plus, you're going to get a prospect, and a really good prospect for your future and many, many more years to come. So if you want to think about it, Nashville's in a really good way because they have all these good pieces plus a prospect that they're going to bring in at the draft.
Exactly.
And even if they don't want the prospect, they can turn that pick into a really, really good top player because it's going to be a coveted draft pick.
Yep. We'll see how Nashville does at the drafts because they're going to have a pretty high pick. And Sam, the next trade, the final trade here, involved Chicago and the Florida Panthers. Chicago was able to shed that big Seth Jones contract, Sam. I believe they retained 25% of that contract, though. And but he carried a $9.5 million contract for 5 more years. But Florida gets him along with a 4th-round pick. And Chicago, they get a young goalie in Spencer Knight and a 1st-round pick. I believe there is a condition on this pick, though. I believe. I could be wrong.
It can turn into a 2027 pick. I think it basically lets them duplicate the pick. So if they don't trade it, Chicago gets it. And then if they do trade it, Chicago gets next year's.
That's right. Yep.
It was some weird condition. It was a weirdest condition of a draft pick I've ever seen. I didn't know you could be like, we'll give it this year if we don't make any other trades, but if we do decide to trade it, you get next year's. I'm like, it's
2026,
like, that's just bizarre.
Not 2025. So.
Oh, okay. So it's 26 or 27. Oh, it's probably because they don't have this year's 1st-round draft pick.
No, they do not. So they do not have a 1st-round pick for this year and next year.
And I have my little assistant right here.
Yeah, and Penny. For those who are just listening to us, Penny is appearing on Sam's screen. She is Sam's dog, the mascot of the Caniac Report, right, Sam?
Yep, our mascot. She likes to sit there and watch sometimes.
Yep. She does.
And also news on Florida, they LTIR'd Matthew Tkachuk, so they have over $8 million in cap space to work with. Plus, Tkachuk will probably come back for the playoffs. So this team's going to be probably $8 to $10 million over the cap when it comes playoff time.
Yeah, but Florida, I think they get a pretty good defenseman on a bad team in Chicago and Seth Jones. And I think Chicago, honestly, I thought they did pretty good too. Able to get a 1st-round pick in a future draft, and you're able to get a young goalie in Spencer Knight. Sam, I think that trade could work well for both teams.
Yeah, I think so too. Some people think it's an overpayment. I think it's two teams getting needs. So,
Yep. Hmm.
right, okay, so that Florida pick isn't going to be very high. It's going to be in the late 20s, 30s is where that pick is always going to be because Florida's that good. Spencer Knight was never going to be their guy when you
Because they have
have,
Bobrovsky.
yeah, because of Bobrovsky and Spencer Knight wants to be a starter. So that makes a lot of sense for him to go over and be prepared to take over in Chicago because he's going to be the guy in Chicago. Uh, and then the Florida Panthers get a really, really solid defenseman who's on the young prime side. I think he's early 30s, late 20s.
He is exactly 30.
So he's hitting his prime right now. So, he's going to
Yep.
go to a good team in his prime. Uh, I think it just makes a lot of sense for everybody involved. Um, yes, Chicago is stuck paying 25% of the contract, but that's better than 100%. So, you know what? I think it's a trade that made sense for everybody around here, right? Florida may have appeared to have overpaid. Spencer Knight was never going to be the goalie there, and that first round pick isn't going to be anything to write home about.
Nope, it's not. Sam, let's get to a sponsor, then we'll talk about the Hurricanes for a little bit with Mikko Rantanen, and then we'll recap the games. It might not feel like it, but spring's right around the corner. Know how you can tell? Golfers are hitting the links and have some tournaments to talk about. And if you want to do more than just talk, put your money where your mouth is. Get in on all the tee to green action with DraftKings Sportsbook. From Thursday's opening round through the closing round Sunday, DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered with tournament props, live betting odds, odd boots, and so much more. If you've never bet on golf before, it's easier than you think. Just pick something simple like a golfer to win the tourney and make your pick. It's just that easy. Here's something special for first timers. New DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 8778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-8789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Blue Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. New customers only. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Okay, Sam. Mikko Rantanen. It feels like we're going to talk about him every episode from here on out just because we don't know what's... Honestly, I still think it's 50-50 on the trade deadline thing. But it was reported last night by Elliot Friedman that he is unlikely to make a contract decision by trade deadline. And it was reported today from Darren Dreger that apparently he isn't surprised if the Rantanen ended the season with the Los Angeles Kings.
Yeah.
Look. So it's been a crazy story, Sam, because I feel like a couple of days ago we're talking about Rantanen might be able to extend. Now we're like, oh, probably not. It's been a whirlwind of a season. It just has.
Yeah, I mean, it's frustrating. I think you'd agree with that.
It is.
Like, why would you make the deal if you didn't think you were going to get it done? And I guess it sounds more likely than not that it's not going to get done. So you chose. It sounded like Carolina had their choice of Pettersson or Rantanen. They went for the better player. Makes complete sense. Rantanen's the better player. What's the difference in the two? Pettersson's under contract. And you traded away Natchez, who is under contract for another year. And Jack Drury, I think, was going to be an RFA this offseason, maybe a UFA. I'm not 100% sure, but you trade two guys who are probably going to stick with Colorado because of the contract situations they got. Where Carolina is concerned, they got a guy in Rantanen who's UFA, so they have very little power here to force him to stay. Taylor Hall, who sounds like he's going to stay. It sounds like he wants to be here too. He's been the better of the two players in my mind and how he's been playing on the ice. The points might not show it, but I think when you actually watch the game, Taylor Hall has been excellent. And I think he's given that second power play unit where the power play in general hasn't looked great. I think Taylor Hall has put some juice into the second unit because I think consistently the second unit has looked better than the first.
It has.
Which is ridiculous. And I think Taylor Hall is a huge reason for that. But as for Rantanen, this has always been my case for anybody you bring in. If they don't want to be here, you know they don't want to be here. That becomes a locker room problem. It becomes an effort problem because they don't want to be here. They're going to work someplace they don't want to be, right? Anytime you go to work, you don't want to be there. You don't, sometimes you just don't bring that effort anymore, which it makes sense, right? It's called quiet quitting. For those who have heard that before, you know what it means. Basically, it's just, I'm not going to be here. Why do I care? And, because even if Rantanen has a bad time down the stretch, wherever he goes, he's still going to make a boatload of money. If he doesn't want to be here, I think Carolina would be foolish to keep him for a cup run because I don't believe this roster as constructed is capable of winning a Stanley Cup unless you get all kinds of bracket luck. And I mean, Washington out in the first round, Columbus is a wild card team, and you're able to knock out New Jersey in the first round, which means you got to stay above them in the standings because I think if New Jersey's got home ice, that becomes harder to do. I know a lot of people like to make fun of New Jersey, but I am not naive enough to believe that they don't have a good team. Bringing in Markstrom made New Jersey excellent. This team that we have here does not have a second line center. Tyson Jost and Jesperi Kotkaniemi are not 2Cs. Rantanen does make you a contender, but he makes you a contender if he wants to be here and contribute and put in the effort. I have not seen that effort yet from him. Even when he has scored, even when he has played, he makes plays effortlessly because he's that talented. But the reason he was getting over 100 points in Colorado is because he put in the effort every day. And I understand uprooting your life and everything is hard. But if at the end of the day, you don't want to play here, I don't know why Carolina doesn't at least trade him to get something back. If you keep him for a cup run, I think you're overselling what this roster is capable of doing this season without going out. If you keep Rantanen, you still got to go out and get a number 2 center.
Yes, I agree.
Which I think it's really hard to do without trading Rantanen. So in my mind, it is if you know a number 2 center that you're like, I want him, you could utilize, especially if you know Rantanen won't sign here, you can utilize that piece to go get and bring that 2C in, then make your massive splash this offseason. And maybe you trade him somewhere that he also doesn't resign. Doesn't mean you can't circle back around and try and make another push for Rantanen. But Marner's a UFA, right? He hasn't signed in Toronto yet. Granted, by the time you listen to this, he might have a contract there, but currently he's going to be a free agent, and he's going to be the biggest free agent there, right? Especially if Rantanen we trade and he signs somewhere. My point here is if Rantanen doesn't want to be here, I think the organization is making a mistake by not moving him. And I think you could utilize him, but you have to move him for a need. If you take something back that's of less value than what you sent out to get him, you need to bring in a need. So I've used Tage Thompson as an example. There are no rumors that Tage Thompson's on the table. I use it as an example because Buffalo's out of a playoff spot that has a piece that we need, right? Tage Thompson makes sense as a return. Is he as good as Rantanen? No, but that fills a very important need, and that gives us a solid number 2 center, right? If you trade Rantanen for less value than you sent out to acquire him, it needs to be a player that is solidly your number 2 center and not just for this year, but I think has to have a contract in place for extended. Why I use Tage Thompson, because I think that's the kind of player Carolina needs to look at. He's under contract. He's got he's got under contract, second line center, goal scorer, right? That's the kind of guy that you look like, okay, you can be the number 2 center. You're a solid number 2 center. If Aho gets hurt, you can play 1C and it not be a problem.
I'd want
right?
more than Tage Thompson, though.
I'm not saying it's just Tage Thompson.
Yeah, I know.
I'm saying if you trade Rantanen for a lesser value than you sent out to get him, it needs to fill a direct pressing need, which right now is your number 2 center.
And I would say the defense has slipped with the performances of Burns and Orlov too.
So if you do something like that, then you look at LA and say, hey, you want Rantanen? Fine. Here's Rantanen. We want Byfield or Fiala. They're listed as centers. I think you said Fiala's a winger. I'm just going by what I read on Puckpedia. So I want one of those 2 players who play center. If Byfield is more of the true center, then I'm like, well, I want Byfield and I want Brent Clark. And probably a second or a third.
Now that I wouldn't mind, actually. I really wouldn't. But here's the thing: LA is also in a playoff position. So to me, this doesn't make sense for LA in the fact that does it really make you better by trading quite a few big pieces to get one player in Rantanen? Again, I think Rantanen has a lot of value, but I mean, just his performance here in Carolina it hasn't raised his value. I don't think his value stays the same from when we traded
I think
him.
you have to also go into the question of, and Brindamore fans are going to hate this, but it's a fact. Do highly skilled players want to play here? Because they're not allowed to utilize their talents here in the way, like, for example, Marty Necas, right? He played here. He wasn't truly allowed to unlock that skill when Colorado, their system encourages that. So does a guy like Rantanen, who is almost a pure skill guy. He's a big skill guy, so dude can throw around the body and forecheck, but does he want to come here and play that game versus going out somewhere where that's not the style? So do these highly skilled guys want to play here? Now, I think a guy like Tage Thompson would thrive in this system. And I'm not saying whether the system is bad or not. I'm not criticizing the system. I'm saying there are players who won't want to play in it. And there's a reason for that, right? There are highly skilled guys that can be 30, 40, 50 goal scorers who won't work well here because that's not how they play. Now, everyone knows my thoughts on the system for the most part. I think it needs to change, not overhaul change, but allow these skilled players to unlock their talents. We're good enough to go on the back and forth kind of thing, but I just, that is the thing to take into consideration, right? Does Rantanen just not want to play here for the system? Does he not like Raleigh? I don't know. But if he doesn't want to sign here, he doesn't want to be here, you trade him. I don't think he adds value if he doesn't want to be here. I think he adds a problem in the locker room. And I don't know if he doesn't want to be here. That's not being clear yet.
I'm on the side of keeping him just because I don't know if you're going to be getting that need out of the trade or a value that's close to the Necas thing. So I'd keep him. You never know. I know one thing, and I learned this from Elliot Friedman. Everything can change with one phone call. So you never know, Sam. Yep. It's funny because by Friday, you never know. This is just how the NHL works. There's an extension already in place for Rantanen. There's still some time left. It's not like tomorrow's trade deadline day. So there's still some time to sort it out with Rantanen. I'd keep him. But to be honest, I think if you do keep him, I see the reason for that as well, just because the guy's 28 years old, and if you're able to sign him, you're able to help your present and your future. So, again, I see the reason for both.
If Rantanen makes it clear he doesn't want to play here, you trade him with whatever you can get, because then he's just going to walk for nothing. And this team isn't good enough to win with just Rantanen unless you go compliment him with a second-line center. But if he says, I'm not opposed, he's like, I don't want to make a decision.
But he still could be in the middle.
That's it. If he says, I don't hate it here, I haven't made a decision yet, one way or the other, then okay, I can see keeping him. But if he flat out says not signing, I don't know why you don't trade him, because you got to get something back.
I would agree with that. But man, this whole drama with Rantanen, it just new stuff happens pretty much every day. But now we're going to recap the two games. Sam, let's start with the Edmonton game. Boy, that first period, Sam. Oh my gosh, that was one of the worst periods I've ever seen from this team.
Yep.
And to be honest, if we ever do trade Rantanen, And if it's because of just the system and how the guys around him has played, then boy, am I calling out Brindamore and every player on that team, because this team did not play good at all in that first period. And they got like what, 2 power plays too? 3 in that first period.
It was like 3 power plays, and the first one was so bad that Edmonton
The
scores.
first 2 were so bad. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we did not look good at all. That game was horrific.
Well, the first period was mainly horrific, but you had Adam Henrique scoring on the shorthanded goal. Boy, that made me mad because it was shorthanded. And listen, I understand this loss probably a little bit more than the Montreal loss, just because you look at the situation. Edmonton is coming into this game losing 5 games, and you can just see it on the ice. Edmonton's playing pissed because they're not happy with their performance. I understand that. And honestly, I'm probably, again, that's probably the reason why I'm more accepting of this loss, regarding, though I still wanted them to win. But in the second period, Sam, you have Corey Perry scoring from a great pass from Driscoll.
Yep.
And another thing, too, I mean, we talked about the performance. Boy, both Chatfield and Orlov really played horrific against Edmonton. Oh, my gosh, it was bad. Like, Chatfield was supposed to defend Corey Perry, but you got to block him out better.
Yep.
Heck, you could say, honestly, with Brent Burns, I mean, he should have blocked out Adam Henrique for the first goal. But he didn't.
But I'm also going to give, and this is me saying it, so you know I mean it. Burns has, I think, played pretty well overall in the last couple games.
He has. But,
and I'm going to give him a pass here, because really it was Orlov and Chatfield who have played really, really bad.
It was.
And it was a shorthanded goal. I'm not going to blame that solely on Burns. I'm going to blame that on the entire unit for not being good enough.
Yeah, I see the reason for that too. So definitely,
like hell, you can't allow a shorty.
No, you really cannot. That's just unexcusable. And then in the third period, Sam, I mean, to me, the third period, obviously best period for the Hurricanes. It was night and day from the first 2 periods to the third period. Carolina was playing really good, and I'm like, oh, good, they finally started playing hockey, because the first 2 periods they were not playing good, and they were their own worst enemy, because they could not complete passes. They whiffed on so many pucks. They turned the puck over. It was atrocious. And they still had some of that, I believe, in the third period. But you had Aho scoring from Rantanen and Gostisbehere. And listen, I actually thought Rantanen played a pretty good game that game. The only criticism I have of Rantanen in that game is, toward the end, while you're trying to tie the game, don't go bumping their player into their goalie.
Yeah, that was stupid.
That was so stupid of Rantanen doing. He needs to be more dialed in there. I don't care if you like this place or not. You're in a game, and you need to be dialed in.
Yep.
And then empty net goal for Evan Bouchard. I mean, funny enough, that was like their 10th attempt on trying to score on the empty net.
Yeah, we got hey, look, you know what, Kochetkov, Anderson, if you guys don't figure it out, we got apparently a bunch of players who can play goalie. So
yes. And I thought Anderson played really good. I'm not blaming this game on Anderson.
Freddie wasn't the problem tonight.
Yeah, he was. I thought he was really, really good. But hopefully we can have a better performance against Calgary. We're recording most of this before the Calgary game.
Yep.
And Sam, I know you're going.
Yep, so I got to actually head out. So perfect timing.
It is perfect timing. So yeah, we will recap the Calgary game now. So we won against Calgary, and a little bit happier, but also at the same time, you had 7 power play opportunities. 7.
Yep.
Couldn't score on either of them.
Nope.
That's a big problem. Big problem.
Including a 4-minute.
Yeah. I know. 4-minute. Although I think there could have been a 5-on-3 on a few occasions there, because during that 4-minute power play, Sam, Jackson Blake got cross-checked. I believe it was Seth Jarvis's stick that got slashed and broken.
Yep.
Like,
literally, when the stick breaks, it's automatic hand in the air.
Yeah, I don't understand that. They gave Calgary a 5-on-3. but not us for those two. I don't understand. But first period, Sam, I honestly thought the first period. I mean, Canes played better compared to the first period against Edmonton, but I think you could argue any first period that the Hurricanes played in is a lot better than the first period they played against Edmonton.
Well, they played Rod's way in the first tonight. Shot suppression, forechecking, shots on goal. I don't really think anything on the first was overly threatening.
No, I was about to say the 12 shots that ended that period. I didn't think any of those shots were high danger shots. It was just not really eventful.
No, it wasn't. I mean, I liked how we played defensively. I still thought Orlov was a dumpster fire tonight again.
Yeah,
and
he
I thought
wasn't.
Chatfield was, and I thought Chatfield wasn't all that good either. The person I took to the game was also saying, "He's like, you can tell Chatfield has no confidence because he has a partner who he doesn't trust."
And that's a good, and I think that is a very good point. Now, also with Chatfield, I actually thought he played a little bit better than the Edmonton game, but
Yes.
Orlov was the same. Yikes! But low scoring, no score, and then in the second period, Sam, what I actually found out is Calgary got shut out twice, 2 times in a row heading into into this game. Did you know that?
No, I mean, I'm not shocked. I didn't think they were overly threatening tonight either.
Well, I thought Chekhov, made some pretty good saves.
No, he made some good saves, but like other than like those, like good. I mean, in general, even some of those like nice saves, I didn't think Calgary had a lot going on most of the game. Chekhov had to make some saves, but I think overall, I think you saw like a truly
there was a breakaway that Calgary had.
Yeah, well, still that's just like one chance, but like until like Calgary reminded me a little bit of the Hurricanes because they couldn't score. They had some chances. I mean, we had some chances too. I don't think either team was overly threatening. I think Carolina won the goaltending battle tonight, which you needed. But I think
goaltending's been good. Goaltending's been good recently, actually, for the Hurricanes.
I didn't like us in Toronto.
Well, other than the Toronto game,
I didn't like us that much at Montreal either. They may be against Edmonton. There was also a low-scoring game, and I mean, yeah, tonight was excellent. Kochetkov was excellent tonight.
Well, I'm talking about, let's just say this weekend. I thought goaltending has been good.
Yeah, I thought Freddie was fine last night, and Kochetkov was good tonight. You're right, Kochetkov had to make some saves, but I think overall, especially like Calgary wasn't great tonight. I don't think Carolina was all that good tonight either. I can't say the better team won the game because I don't think both teams weren't all that good tonight.
Yeah, both teams weren't really that good. So,
Carolina won because we won because we have the better roster. And once it gets to overtime, if you value possession and you have the significantly better roster, you should win. And Carolina did, and we have the more offensive players. It's just you're really getting down to the point where you see when you have a player like Nazem Kadri, who's one of their best players, bark at the ref for, by the way, a correct non-call. Kadri turned at the last minute, and then he got boarded. If you turn at the last minute, they're never going to call it.
I thought that was a trip. That could have been a trip. Could have.
When Kadri fell?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, Kadri was boarded.
Wait, what?
When Kadri
I'm talking about what happened that led to the Carolina goal, the Slavin goal.
No, what I'm saying is what happened is Nazem Kadri got hit from behind because he had the puck and he turned at the last minute and he went up against the boards. He sold the call. He tried to sell a call, but again, he turned at the last second and the guy was already committed to the hit. No call. Hurricanes go the other way, 2-on-1. They score. Kadri's barking at the ref. And that's why Kadri was barking at the ref.
Yeah. And it's funny because he gets 2 minutes. I was like, haha.
Well, I think he got 2 and 10.
He got 2 and 10.
I think so. Well, he left the ice and someone else served the misconduct.
Oh,
2 minutes.
I didn't know that.
I think that's what happened. I think I could be wrong. what I'm saying is the big point of what I'm trying to make is when you have a player like Nazem Kadri who barks at the refs, gives the Hurricanes a full-fledged 2 minutes of free power play time right after you scored a goal, you need to take advantage of that and score. Carolina didn't score on the power play. We aren't scoring on the power play. And that's the problem, is we're not taking advantage of these opportunities that are like
we're not.
golden plated opportunities. Carolina scores on a power play last night. We win that hockey game, really get it to overtime. Just one power play. If we don't allow a shorthanded goal, that game gets to overtime. Carolina tonight, if we score on just one power play, we don't go to overtime. The power play is starting to be a problem. Our penalty kill has been very good, but we also have given up power play goals.
We've been giving up a few power play.
So
goals.
We can't afford to not have an atrocious power play and have the penalty kill start to crack.
Yeah, we can't.
And Columbus is nipping at our heels. Like, this was a must win. It's ridiculous that this team is starting to enter into must win territory.
It is. It really is. But I mean,
and I did notice the line change.
Blake.
Yes, it was an excellent pass from Blake. I was just saying, I noticed some line changes tonight. KK and Jost swapped eventually in that game.
Yes, they did. But what I really liked is Fetch and Jarvis switched, and I was so happy to see that. And I thought the Aho line got better once Jarvis was on the Aho was with Aho and Rantanen.
And I do too. And I think Fetch got better once he was playing with Martinook and Stahl.
Yes.
Because I think Fetch fits that better, that heavy-handed physical line. And it's good for Fetch on getting that fight. He's not a fighter. He's a bad fighter, and we saw that tonight. Fetch lost that fight pretty handedly too, I thought.
But he was trying to rile up the crowd. Same thing, kind of the same thing as the KK fight. But
I am proud of him. Proud of him for doing that, standing up for his teammate. I think I would have liked to have had Fetch for the 4-minute power play. So I think that's one of those where I'm like, oh, buddy, that was a stupid one to do.
But you also, I mean, they put Blake up on the first power play unit, and I'm not complaining with Blake on the first power play.
No, but that forces Jost to play on the second unit, and that's that second unit just got a lot worse. That's probably a fight I don't want him to do, but I understand it, and I'm proud of him for like standing. Like, you want your players to stand up for your teammate. Would I have probably done the fight versus like a face wash? I don't know. But I think in general, Fetch shouldn't be fighting. But it's good to know, like, hey, he can do it. He can drop the gloves if it becomes appropriate.
Yeah, I agree. And honestly, I think when Fetch is at his best, he gets physical. I'm not saying that he should fight, but when he's physical, I think he's at his best. And now, unfortunately, Calgary ties the game, Sam. And to me, that's kind of a shot I thought Kochetkov probably should have had, but if we had lost that game, that's not on Kochetkov. It's on the lack of scoring, because scoring has been such a big issue for this team. Then it heads into overtime, and then Sam, you have Slavin passing it to Aho with a blast, and Aho scores. Good for Aho. And I'm just going to say this. For anyone who is blaming Aho for offensive woes on this team, please don't, because the guy has garnered so many goals recently. He is not the problem of the offensive woes this team has had. He could do better, but he's not the problem.
No, it's just Carolina. We're going to start getting to a point where teams figure it out, how we play, and can counter it. And I think we're starting to see that move in that direction. It happens, by the way, right? Paul Maurice, Peter Laviolette happened with Carolina. If you're overly stubborn as a head coach and unwilling to change where change is needed, teams figure it out and counter it. I don't think this is entirely a roster problem. I do think there are roster issues. I think most of that is focused on the blue line as well as the second line center. Yep. But you don't go from scoring like you were to start the year to not, because teams figure it out.
And the team got better too. On paper,
Yeah,
the team got
absolutely,
better
we
with
got better, and we
Rantanen
still
and
don't
all.
score.
I know
Again,
that's an issue.
my
And
full
where's that
belief,
from?
and I think you agree that there needs to be some changes to the system, at least some minor. I'm not saying Rod needs to overhaul it. No, I think you need to keep the stall line sticking with it, right? That is their bread and butter. They need to do it. But Rantanen, Aho, and Jarvis, come on. Are we really not going to let them take over the game with their skill and let their skill and have some freedom to do what they can do best? I can't get behind that.
I mean, you can tell they're trying to play a certain way. You just
Absolutely. And it's not working, so change it up. It's okay to change up the system. You're not going to win a Stanley Cup if you don't let your skill guys have the ability to take over a game. I haven't seen any of those guys take over a game. I don't know if I've seen it since the first 2 months of the year. And it doesn't happen often because that's not the system. It was probably Natchez. I don't see it anymore. I haven't seen Aho. I don't think I have seen Aho once this season completely take over a game.
No, I haven't either, but that's solely on him just because he has flourished under Brendan Moore's system.
Sure. I haven't seen Rantanen do it since he got here, and he should. I haven't seen Svetch do it. I haven't seen Jarvis do it. It's just I think we can get to a point where it's going to be okay. We should get to a point where it's going to be okay to shift up the system. I like John Cooper's system. I think it's a hybrid role, a hybrid system that's kind of like Rod's, but his offensive guys have a lot of leeway. And I think a system like John Cooper's, who by the way, and people are going to get mad, I'm sorry, he's the best coach in the National Hockey League right now. He is it. He is the gold standard. Back-to-back Stanley Cup champions, 3 Cup final appearances in a row, 4 whoops, you're going to have to bleep that out, Sam. 4, that was not on purpose. I greatly apologize. I'm so sorry. I feel actually really bad about that one. Okay. 4 Cup final appearance. That's what happens when you try to say cup and final right next to each other. Flip the 2 words letters. Yeah. Sam's over there dying because he knows I just accidentally dropped the F-bomb on here. I apologize.
I'm sorry. Continue.
4. He's had 4, I believe, Cup final appearances in general in his career. He is the gold standard, right? I think John Cooper's the gold standard, and I think maybe adopting some of those practices in Tampa make a lot of sense for this roster because I see a lot of similarities.
Yeah, and I think another thing too, we need more net front presence in front of the freaking goalie. That's an issue that I think it's been going on for so long to where you just wonder if that's a system thing. So, but Sam, we got the win against Calgary. We have 2 more games until the trade deadline, and our next episode will be on Friday, released on Friday, trade deadline. I don't know, Sam. Would you want to record Thursday or record Friday?
I think it makes more sense to drop a late pod on Friday.
Okay, so
at the very least, if we don't go live and I can't get Friday off, I think it makes more sense to do that.
Yeah, so instead of releasing it Friday morning, we might release an episode that Friday night. So keep an eye out for that, guys. Because Sam and I do want to do, or at least we're going to attempt to try to do something special. Don't know if it's going to work. If at worst comes to worst, you'll probably just get an episode Friday morning. But just stay tuned. Remember to follow us on social media. And also just be sure to keep up when these episodes come out. So, yeah, Sam, it's going to be an interesting trade deadline. Don't know what's going to happen.
Well, we'll see what this roster looks like next time.
Yep. We'll see you guys then.